talking about the cell. And here we have a diagram of a cell. In this diagram, we have a cell membrane that within it has a cytoplasm with organelles floating in that cytoplasm. When we do our cell unit, we are not going to cover every single organelle in a lot of detail. Instead, what we're going to be doing is we'll focus in on some functions of the cell and those organelles that do those functions. So the main organelles on which we will focus include the nucleus, which is the purple structure right there in the center of the cell, the mitochondria, and that
associated with energy and cellular respiration. We will also have a focus on ribosomes, and you'll see some free ribosomes as well as some ribosome on the rough endoplasmic reticulum. And what is not pictured here, but that we will also be focusing on, is the chloroplasts. The chloroplast is important aspect of course, photosynthesis. This here, we can tell it has no cell wall, so we know that it is an animal cell. This is not a plant cell, and as a result, there's no chloroplast in this particular picture, but we will be talking about those in this class. So the first thing we're going to focus on is the cytoplasm. Cyto, C-Y-T-O, as you can see there in the title, refers to cell. And plasm is like plasma or a gel-like substance. So it is a jelly-like material which contains materials involved in cell metabolism. So everything that is inside the cell membrane and outside the nucleus and is not an organelle is cytoplasm. So let's say you took a bowl and you filled it with Jello, and then you put a bunch of ping pong balls in there. The Jello would be then the cytoplasm. It gives the cell its shape because it creates that tension against the cell membrane. The next one that we'll be talking about is the nucleus and nucleolus. So in this picture here, the nucleus is that large structure towards the center of the cell. It's a purplish color. And the purple, using about 25% of the nucleus space, is called the nucleolus. Okay? So nucleus is the large structure, the large light purple, but the dark purple structure inside is the nucleolus, and it's about 25% of the space of the nucleus. A nucleus serves as the control center of the cell and contains DNA. This is going to be really important. We will talk about how important it is for the nucleus to contain the DNA, because DNA, as you all know, is a blueprint for the information to make proteins that will be what a person is, or what any living organism is. So keeping that free of mutation, free of change, and in a very stable atmosphere is very important, and a nucleus provides that membrane bound, and we've talked about membranes before, but it keeps the nucleus has a membrane around it, and that keeps it solid in there so that it's not affected as much by the atmosphere or the other environment around it. Then we have the nucleolus, and the nucleolus is a location where it contains RNA, and specifically ribosomes are made in the nucleolus. Okay, so we'll be learning more about ribosomes later, but right now we'll just knowing that the nucleolus contains the RNA is what we'll focus on. And the nuclear membrane, this controls what goes in or out of the nucleus. Remember I was talking about that protection for the DNA. Well, by having that membrane and having control of what goes in and out of the nucleus, you have a better chance of really protecting that DNA. Inside the nucleus, you have the chromosomes. So chromosomes are made up of DNA. So when I said that there is DNA inside the nucleus, those are actually in the form of DNA is in the form of chromosomes, and they contain the code that guides all cell activities. They're found inside the nucleus, and chromosomes contain the genes that determine an organism's characteristics. So chromosomes are made of DNA, and we know that DNA controls or determines what an organism is like. So that is the importance of a chromosome. The next organelle about which we are going to learn a little bit is the mitochondria. And the mitochondria is a cell organelle that converts the chemical energy stored in food into compounds that are more convenient for the cell to use. And that more convenient process is, aspect is going to be ATP. We'll be learning more about that. The next organelle that we will be learning about are chloroplasts. Chloroplasts, as we've mentioned before, are not found in animal cells. They are found in plant cells. And chloroplasts is an organelle that are found in plants. They are also found in some other organisms. And they capture energy from sunlight and converts that to chemical energy. So we will get more detail about the process of photosynthesis later, but it all happens in the chloroplast. Finally, ribosomes. I mentioned them earlier, how they're made in the nucleolus. They are small particles in the cell on which proteins are assembled. And they are made of RNA and protein. So RNA and protein come together and they make these ribosomes. Ribosomes are found in both eukaryotic and prokaryotic organisms, so they are very important. This is a wrap-up of our organelles, just to give you a brief introduction, and we will be learning more about them as we learn about the processes that they are in charge of.